Welcome back. We are going to jump into Security Plus quizzes again. Practice quizzes, of course. This is test number set 3 as we go through. 5 questions. 5 questions is all we're doing today, but we're going to dissect those questions and figure out why the answer is the answer. That's the goal for today. Hopefully you learned something from it. Hopefully we go through it and you find it to be educational. If you do, of course, I ask that you like, subscribe, and of course hit that little bell icon at the top. But beside that, I wanted to talk today about with Security Plus, what is it? How many questions could I expect? Well, you can expect between 70 and 90 questions, 70 and 90 questions. Typically, in the past, most students that I've had take it usually end up between 72 and 75 questions. It's usually the average. At times, I've seen some students, they come back and they're like, well, I had 89 questions or 88. But most students that I see, they're between 72 and 75. You can always find out the total number of questions as you go through your exam. It's not that big of a deal. But as you're going through the exam, you should be between 70 and 90 questions. Usually 2 to 3, sometimes 2 to 4 performance-based questions. Now, performance-based questions are any question that is not multiple choice. That could be a drag and drop. It could be a follow the line, mix and match. It could be anything and everything that the CompTIA decides it could be that is not multiple choice. However, most of the questions are multiple choice, and that's what we concentrate on here. We concentrate on those multiple choice questions. Hopefully you get an introspective of drag and drop or some of the other performance-based just by knowing the content. For instance, I would expect to see maybe, dot the lines, port number to protocol, or maybe here's the unsecure version, type in the secure version of the acronym for the protocol, because something like that I would expect to see. I haven't really seen any types. I don't think I've ever seen any type in or fill in the blank ones. I've seen drag and drop. I've seen connect. I've seen where you go in and they give you a command line interface. Of course, that was for some of the higher level exams, not so much on CompTIA. I've definitely seen drag and drop, and you have to figure out where the firewall is or figure out what the IP address is. That is all possible on Security Plus, okay? But let's jump in here. You didn't come here to hear me talk. You came here for quiz questions. Let's start with right off the gate with a medium question. Which of the following describes the main purpose of a honeypot in cybersecurity? Which one? What do you think? I know that when we look at some of these questions, I'm just going to talk and mumble on to myself while you read the answers. I often say you should only be delegating 30 to 45 seconds per multiple choice question. That's it. 30 to 45 seconds. If you look at the question and you're drawing a blank, if you're looking at the question, you have no clue, take a guess. There's a flag in the top right-hand corner. You hit that little flag, and then you move on with your life. We do not want to spend a maximum of 1 minute on multiple choice questions. That's all we want to spend. We can always come back, right? But if we spend a maximum of 1 minute on multiple choice questions, that gives us more time for those performance-based questions. It gives us more time to go through the process, which leads me to my second hint as we're going through this, which I may have alluded to. We want to skip those first performance-based questions. We don't want to jump right into those. We want to skip those, get straight to the multiple choice, and do the performance-based ones last. That should be your goal. That should be your tactic as you're moving on. All right, let's jump into this. Which of the following describes the main purpose of a honeypot in cybersecurity? Well, let's get rid of perform automated vulnerability scanning. I think we know that a honeypot is not Nessus. It's not OpenBoss. It's not going to do automated vulnerability scanning. That is not something that a honeypot does. So we can get rid of D. D is out the window. What about B? I think we all know that it's not to detect and mitigate phishing attacks. That would be something like Proofpoint or some other tool that we might utilize, but definitely not a honeypot. That leaves A and C as our primary guesses. Which one do you think? I'll give you a second if you guessed B or D on the first one. Maybe take another guess at it. Well, it's not going to be capture malware samples. Yes, it can do that, but that is not the main purpose. When we capture our malware samples, usually we're investigating or gathering information on the attacker. We're looking at what the attacker's doing. We're tracking their actions. We're tracking their movement. We're seeing what they downloaded or uploaded into the system. That's where we might get those malware samples, but that is not the main purpose. The main purpose is to figure out how they're acting within the system. That gives us research and insight and to create better defensive strategies against them. Our answer is going to be C, to gather information on attackers. The same would be true of a honeynet. The same would be true of a honeynet. All right, moving on. Question number 2. What type of malware encrypts files on a victim system and demands payment for the decryption key? Very easy on this one. I feel like you guys have got this one, though. I don't feel like we need to spend a lot of time on it. I'll talk about one of the other ones, though, that we may encounter, right? Remember that if you see malware as one of your answers on a question like this, if you see malware as one of your answers on a question like this, and it doesn't have the exact type of virus or the exact type of malware, then the malware is the proper answer. It is the proper answer. If you see, as you're going through these questions and you're like, hey, the right answer, which I knew was the right answer, wasn't there, then malware would be right. If the right answer is there, then malware is kind of the catch-all, right? And so be aware of that. We want to do the exact type of malware first, and then if that's not there, then we would do malware. All right, let's jump into this question. If you need to, if I'm going too fast, you can pause that video. You can pause that video. All right, what type of malware encrypts files on a victim's systems and demands payment for the encryption key? Well, we know it's not a Trojan. A Trojan would be hiding a malicious software inside of legitimate software. That's a Trojan. We know it's not a virus. A virus goes in and it usually slows system performance or it does some funky things, but it doesn't encrypt the files. It doesn't encrypt the files. A virus is something that you must execute as well. It's not a worm. A worm is nothing more than a self-replicating virus, which means it must be ransomware. Ransomware, we're going to charge or demand payment. We're going to ransom the key to decrypt your files. We always tell clients, don't pay the ransom. If you have a properly set up cybersecurity infrastructure, then you don't need to. You don't need to. If you do it properly, with proper backups and everything else like that, then ransomware should not be an issue for you if you do it correctly. All right, there we go. Question number 3, which method is commonly used to establish a secure communication channel over an insecure network? Now, I know what my answer would be. I know what my number 1 answer would be, and it's not there. It's not there. That means we have to find the other answer. I'll give you a second for this one while I take a drink. What do you think, though? All right, let's jump into this one. Let's get rid of DHCP. Let's get rid of DHCP, dynamic host configuration protocol. That would be giving IP addresses into my system. We know that's not it. Let's get rid of steganography. Steganography is the art of hiding something into another file, hiding it into a picture inside of another picture. Usually not malicious. Where a Trojan's malicious, steganography is not. It's hiding data within other data. That would be steganography. We can hide data in pictures. We can hide data in music. We can hide data in other data. That would all be considered steganography. That leaves PKI and NAT. You gotta love those acronyms. If you haven't watched my channel before, you're probably going, okay, how do I do these acronyms? I gotta tell you, you gotta memorize the acronyms. You gotta memorize those acronyms. If you're unfamiliar with the acronym, just say it in a sentence 5 or 6 times throughout the day, and then say what it is, followed directly by the acronym. For instance, network address translation, NAT, would not be the correct answer on this one. Network address translation takes our IP addresses maybe from a public to a private and vice versa. That's usually done at the router. That's network address translation, where we're going from one IP address over to another so that they can communicate. That would be NAT, which means public key infrastructure. That would be our correct answer. PKI, I always call it public key encryption for some reason. That's that public-private key pair that we often talk about. That would be encrypting our communication. So what was the better answer? I think that the one answer that I looked for as soon as I saw this question was VPN. I think we all did. I think we all were like, it should be VPN, right? That's one way that we do it. But no, it says to establish a secure communication channel over an insecure network would be PKI. I don't know. It sounds an awful lot like VPN to me. But VPN was not a answer. And so it must be PKI. PKI is going to be the correct answer on this one. Moving on. There we go. Question number 4, another very easy one for Security Plus. Which type of attack involves overwhelming a system, such as a server, with a flood of traffic to render it unusable? I feel like if you're in cybersecurity, you probably know this one. I feel like this would be the basic attack. I feel like that cyber people or people that are getting into cybersecurity for the first time, we all like jump in on the attack vectors first because they're interesting, right? And so I feel like I'm not going to give you a lot of time for this one. So if you need more time, go ahead and pause that video because we're going to jump right into the answer. It's definitely not phishing, right? Phishing would be over an email. I send it to a lot of people, and it's more about statistics, right? I send out 100,000 emails. I'm expecting like 1% or 0.1% back. That's all I need. It's all about numbers with phishing. They're random things out there. They're getting people to click on the link. That's all I want to do. That's a phishing email attack. I think we also know that it's not an SQL injection attack, a server query language injection attack. That would be where the server utilizes something like SQL, and maybe we can bypass login by doing an SQL injection attack. I have a video out for SQL injection. If you want to see it in action, it's on my YouTube page. We actually walk you through the process using a sandboxed environment. You can check that out if you're really interested. But I show you off that one. That leaves DOS or XSS. I'll give you a second to decide which one you want to jump in on. Not too long though. I feel like you guys have got this, right? It's not a cross-site scripting attack, right? That would be where we inject malware into a legitimate site. That would be cross-site scripting. That must mean that it is a denial of service attack where we flood a system with as much traffic. Not so usable anymore. I don't see really a lot of DOS attacks that are successful. Maybe a distributed denial of service, a DDoS attack, right? Make sure that you understand the differences, right? A DOS attack is one system to one system. A distributed denial of service attack, I cannot talk today, a DDoS attack or a DDoS attack is multiple systems, usually thousands to hundreds of thousands of machines, all trying to flood traffic to a service. Much more common than what we would see today. I don't think any system, any modern system would actually be affected by a DOS attack. Maybe I'm incorrect on this one, but I have not seen a DOS attack in probably a decade. I'm sure somebody out there has probably seen one, and it was probably with an older system and probably not well protected. But a DDoS attack, much more something that we have to worry about. There's the answer, though. It is definitely a DOS attack or a DOS attack. Moving on. Last question for the night. Hard question. We'll finish up strong. What is the primary benefit of using a sandbox environment and malware analysis? What is the primary benefit, not the secondary, of using a sandbox environment and malware analysis? I'm going to give you a second. A lot of words on this page that will make you read. What do you think? It's a little bit like you're reading through this and you're going, what is this? Remember, the best way to solve questions like this, the best way is that process of elimination. You'll notice that I do that a lot. We can also use that 50%. Remember, we never want to leave a question unanswered. We always want to answer, even if we have no clue, because at least we have a 25% chance of getting it right if we at least answer something. If we answer nothing, we have a 0%. Usually there's an answer on there that we can knock off, like we're confident that it's not that answer. That gives us a 33% chance, right? And if I can knock off 2, well, that gives me a 50% chance, right? And I'll take 50%, 33%, or even 25% over a 0% chance every single time. All right, let's jump into this one. What is the primary benefit of using a sandbox environment and malware analysis? Well, we know it's not to enhance encryption strength of the analyzed files, right? Because why would I increase encryption or increase anything on malware? That doesn't make sense. I feel like that is one that we can safely knock off as just reading it and going, that doesn't make any sense. Let's get rid of that one. Reduces the risk of false positives in detection. Not really. False positives in detection. It's pretty safe to bet that we've already identified the malware. If we're doing malware in a sandbox environment, because a sandbox environment is an environment that's cut off from the internet, it's all by itself, usually a virtualized system would be sandboxed or something like that. In that case, we've already identified the malware. We already know that the malware is there. That's not a false positive. That's already defining it. And so even the question states that. So can't really reduce the risk of a false positive in detection when we've already detected it. So that one doesn't make any sense. So that leaves B and C. All right. Provide real-time threat intelligence. That's maybe a good one. Or allow safe execution and observability of potentially malicious code. I think that I'm going to go with C. And the reason I say that is because real-time intelligence does not come from me identifying malware, taking that malware, the time to take that malware, and then put it into a sandbox environment, and then run either static or dynamic malware analysis on it, right? And so, again, not real time. Real time would be Honeypot or HoneyNet. This is not a sandbox environment. That means C must be our correct answer. Allows safe execution and observation. I cannot talk. Allows safe execution and observation of potentially malicious code. That would be our correct answer. See, if you got that one right, give yourself a crisp high five. We'll just do it like this. Yeah. I mean, some people call it clapping. I call it giving myself a high five. And then we'll go through that. I know some of my students are just shaking their head at me and they're going, my God, he's old. Yes, I am. The dad jokes come out every once in a while. That's it for tonight. I hope you found this educational. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, if you could hit that like, subscribe, and that little bell out there, I will do my best to get more content out for you for your Security Plus practice test exam questions. We'll see you next time. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you. Have a good one.